The USS Meridian drifted through the dark space near the edge of human territory when the sensors started screaming. Captain Jake Morrison rushed to the bridge where his crew was already at their stations. The main screen showed something that made his blood run cold. 5 massive alien ships hung in the void ahead of them, each one 3 times the size of his exploration vessel. How did they get so close without us seeing them? Jake asked his tactical officer, Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster. She was staring at her instruments with wide eyes. "Sir, they just appeared. Our sensors show no jump signatures, no engine trails. They were just suddenly there." Dr. Lisa Park, the ship's scientist, was already scanning the alien vessels from her station. Her fingers moved quickly across her console as she gathered data. "Captain, these ships are using technology we have never seen before. Their hulls are made from materials that do not match anything in our databases." Chief Engineer Tony Rodriguez spoke up from his position near the engine controls. "Their power readings are off the charts, Captain. Each of those ships has more energy output than our entire home fleet combined." His voice carried worry that everyone on the bridge could hear. Jake looked at the alien ships again. They had strange designs with curved surfaces and what looked like living metal that seemed to move in the light. No weapons were visible, but that did not make him feel better. Advanced civilizations often had weapons that looked like anything but weapons. "Sir, we are getting a transmission," said Lieutenant Danny Kim from the communication station. His hands were shaking slightly as he worked his controls. "It is coming through on multiple frequencies and in perfect English." "Put it on screen," Jake ordered. The main display changed to show an alien face that was both beautiful and terrifying. The creature had pale blue skin, large black eyes, and features that were almost human but wrong in ways that hurt to look at. When it spoke, its voice was smooth like silk but carried the cold of deep space. "Greetings, primitive beings. I am Commander Vex Thaloran of the Zelkan Empire. You have entered space claimed by our people. Your species is unknown to us, but that will be corrected shortly." The alien paused and seemed to study something off-screen. "We have scanned your vessel and found it to be remarkably weak. Your technology is barely above chemical rockets and metal projectiles." Jake felt anger rise in his chest, but he kept his voice steady. "I am Captain Jake Morrison of the human exploration ship USS Meridian. We did not know this space was claimed. We are on a peaceful mission to map new star systems." Commander Thaloran made a sound that might have been laughter. "Peaceful mission, how quaint. Your primitive vessel suggests that your species has only recently developed space travel. Tell me, human, how many worlds does your kind control?" "We have colonies on 12 worlds and stations throughout 50 star systems," Jake replied. He saw no reason to lie about something the aliens could easily discover. 50 systems, Thaloran repeated with what sounded like amusement. "The Zelkan Empire controls over 400 systems across 17 sectors. We have conquered civilizations that your mind cannot imagine. We have weapons that can crack planets and shields that can stop the power of stars." Dr. Park stepped closer to Jake and whispered quietly, "Captain, their scans of our ship are very detailed. They are learning everything about our technology and probably our biology too." Jake nodded slightly to show he understood. On the screen, Commander Thaloran continued speaking. "Your species interests us in the way that insects interest scientists. You are weak, your lifespans are short, and your technology is laughable. Yet you have managed to spread across multiple worlds. This suggests either remarkable luck or some quality we have not yet identified." "What do you want from us?" Jake asked. He already suspected the answer but hoped he was wrong. "Want." Thaloran seemed to consider the word. "We do not want anything from you. We take what we require. Your species will become part of the Zelkan Empire. Your worlds will serve our needs. Your people will work for our benefit. This is not a request or negotiation. This is how things are." Amy Foster looked at her captain with questioning eyes. Jake could see she was ready to fight, even against impossible odds. Tony Rodriguez was already working on boosting their engines, in case they needed to run. Dr. Park continued her scans, gathering every bit of information she could about their visitors. "And if we refuse?" Jake asked, though he was sure he knew this answer too. Commander Thaloran smiled, showing teeth that were too sharp and too white. "Refuse." Another quaint concept. You cannot refuse the tide or refuse gravity. You cannot refuse the Zelkan Empire. However, we are not without mercy for lesser species. We will give you time to accept reality. You have 24 hours to prepare your surrender. Use this time to contact your leaders and inform them of their new situation. 24 hours, Jake repeated. Indeed. Do not attempt to flee. Our ships are faster than anything your kind has built. Do not attempt to fight. Our weapons would destroy your vessel before you could fire a single shot. Simply accept what must be and prepare for your new lives as servants of the Empire. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in tense silence. Jake looked around at his crew. They were scared, but he could see determination in their eyes too. These people had volunteered for deep space exploration knowing they might never return home. They were not the type to give up easily. Amy, get me a secure channel to Earth Command, Jake ordered. Use the quantum communicator and route it through every relay we have. I want this message to get home even if they blow us apart. Tony, I need you to go over every system on this ship. Find me anything we can use. Any way to boost our weapons, our shields, our engines. Anything. Lisa, keep studying those ships. Find me a weakness. Find me anything we can use against them. Doctor, Park looked up from her console. Captain, there is something strange about their scanning patterns. They seem to be focused on our obvious systems, but missing some of our more subtle technology. What do you mean? Jake asked. They identified our fusion reactors, our kinetic weapons, and our basic energy shields immediately, but they seem to have overlooked our quantum communicators, our gravity manipulation systems, and several other technologies that we consider routine. Amy Foster added, Sir, if they think we are more primitive than we actually are, that might give us some kind of advantage. Jake nodded slowly. Keep that information quiet. If they want to underestimate us, let them. We have 24 hours to figure out how to use that against them. As his crew began their work, Jake stared at the alien ships on the main screen. The Zelkan Empire had made one critical mistake. They assumed that because humans looked weak and used simple technology, they actually were weak. They had no idea what humans could do when backed into a corner with no way out except through their enemies. Commander Vex Thalarin walked through the science sections of his flagship, while his crew conducted their analysis of the human vessel. The preliminary reports confirmed what he had suspected from the first scans. These humans were among the weakest species the Zelkan Empire had ever encountered. Status report, Thalarin demanded from his chief science officer, a tall Zelkan named Kex Vorin. The science officer consulted his data tablets with the efficiency that marked all members of their race. The humans are even more primitive than we initially calculated, Commander. Their vessel uses chemical fusion for power, metal projectiles for weapons, and basic electromagnetic fields for protection. Their technology level appears to be approximately 300 years behind our current capabilities. Thalarin nodded with satisfaction. What about their biology? Fascinating in its weakness, sir. They have no natural armor, no enhanced strength, no advanced sensory organs. Their average lifespan is barely 100 of their planetary years. They appear to be evolved from some sort of persistence-hunting animal, which explains their endurance but not their technological development. How did such a weak species manage to spread across 50 star systems? Thalarin asked. It was the one question that puzzled him about these creatures. Science Officer Vorin made a gesture that indicated uncertainty. Unknown, Commander. Perhaps they encountered no resistance. Perhaps other species in their region are even weaker than they are. Or perhaps they have been extremely fortunate in their expansion. Meanwhile, aboard the USS Meridian, Captain Jake Morrison was coordinating, with his crew in ways the Zelkans could not have imagined. Dr. Lisa Park was having what appeared to be friendly conversations with the alien science teams, sharing basic information about human culture and biology. What the aliens did not realize was that every question they asked gave away information about their own society and technology. They are fascinated by our music, Dr. Park reported to Captain Morrison during a brief break in communications. They cannot understand how we create patterns that have no mathematical logic but still sound pleasing. They keep asking about the mathematical formulas we use. What did you tell them? Jake asked. The truth. That we do not use formulas. We create music based on emotion and feeling. They think I am lying or confused. To them, everything must follow precise mathematical rules. Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster was using the time to establish contact with other human ships and colonies in the area. The quantum communicators that the aliens had dismissed as primitive were actually allowing nearly instantaneous communication across dozens of star systems. I have reached Admiral Kate Sullivan at Earth Command, Amy reported quietly. She is mobilizing the defense fleet, but they are still 6 days away at best. I also contacted the mining colonies in the asteroid belt. They have some interesting ideas about improvised weapons. Chief Engineer Tony Rodriguez was working with a team to modify their existing systems in ways that would not be obvious to alien sensors. Captain, we cannot make our weapons more powerful, but we might be able to make them more unpredictable. The aliens seem to expect everything to follow optimal efficiency patterns. Explain, Jake said. Their computer systems are designed to counter logical tactical responses. If we do things that are technically inefficient but unexpected, their automated defenses might not be able to adapt quickly enough. Dr. Park continued her conversations with the Zelkan science teams, learning more with each exchange. The aliens were happy to share information because they saw the humans as no threat whatsoever. They even showed her recordings of previous conquests to demonstrate the futility of resistance. Captain, I am learning disturbing things about their empire, Dr. Park reported during another private moment. They have conquered 17 different species over the past 2 centuries. Every single conquest followed the same pattern. Overwhelming technological superiority, demands for surrender and then integration into their empire as worker species. What happened to the species that refused to surrender? Jake asked. Complete destruction. They show no mercy to species that resist. But Captain, here is the interesting part. Every species they conquered was similar to them, logical, hierarchical, focused on technological efficiency. None of them ever used unpredictable tactics or emotional decision-making. Lieutenant Danny Kim, who had been quietly monitoring alien communications, discovered something important. Sir, their computer systems are incredibly advanced, but they have one major limitation. They cannot process truly random events. Everything in their technology assumes that all actions will follow optimal efficiency calculations. Sergeant Pete Collins, the head of the ship's small security team, was working with the engineering crew to prepare surprises that the aliens would never expect. Captain, we have 15 mining charges left over from our asteroid survey work. Normally we would use them to break apart space rocks for mineral extraction. But with some modifications they could become very effective weapons. What kind of modifications? Jake asked. The aliens expect our weapons to be fired from obvious weapon systems. They would never expect us to use mining equipment as weapons, or to detonate charges that were designed for peaceful purposes. Their shields are calibrated to stop military weapons, not mining tools. Commander Thaloran was reviewing the intelligence his teams had gathered about human space. His analysts had identified the locations of all major human colonies and calculated the fleet strength needed to conquer each system. The numbers were laughably small compared to Zelkan military power. Commander, we have detected quantum communications from the human vessel, his communications officer reported. They are contacting other ships and installations throughout their territory. Let them. Thaloran replied with amusement. Let them warn their entire species about our arrival. Fear will make the eventual conquest easier. When their leaders understand the hopelessness of their situation, they will order immediate surrender. What Commander Thaloran did not understand was that humans did not react to hopeless situations the way other species did. When faced with impossible odds, humans did not calculate their chances and surrender logically. Instead, they became more creative, more determined, and more willing to try things that should not work but sometimes did. Dr. Park made another discovery during her conversations with the alien scientists. Captain, They have never encountered a species that uses deception as a primary strategy. In their culture, lying is considered inefficient and wasteful. They always tell the truth because lies require energy that could be used for more productive activities. Are you saying they cannot detect when we are lying to them? Amy Foster asked. More than that, they do not even consider the possibility that we might be lying. When I told them our weapons were primitive chemical explosives, they believed me, completely. They never considered that I might be describing our mining charges while letting them assume I was talking about military weapons. The 24-hour deadline was approaching, but the human crew was not preparing for surrender. Instead, they were preparing for something the Zelkan Empire had never faced before. They were preparing to fight dirty, to use deception and creativity, and to turn their apparent weaknesses into unexpected strengths. Captain Morrison looked at his crew and felt a fierce pride. These people knew they were facing impossible odds, but not one of them had suggested giving up. They were scared, but they were also angry. The aliens had made the mistake of threatening not just them, but their families, their friends, and their entire species. Status report, Jake asked as the final hours counted down. All modifications complete, sir, Tony Rodriguez reported. We look like the same primitive vessel they scanned, but we have some surprises ready. Communications with the defense fleet established, Amy Foster added. Admiral Sullivan confirms that help is coming, but we need to hold out for at least 6 days. Cultural intelligence gathered and analyzed, Dr. Park concluded. I understand their psychology, their technology, and most importantly, their limitations. Commander, Thalarin looked at the countdown timer on his command display. Soon the humans would surrender, and another primitive species would join the Zelkan Empire. It would be routine, efficient, and completely predictable. He had no idea that he was about to face an enemy that specialized in being unpredictable. The 24-hour deadline arrived with Commander Thalarin expecting a routine surrender message from the human vessel. Instead, Captain Jake Morrison appeared on the communication screen with a calm expression that surprised the alien commander. Commander Thalarin, we have considered your offer very carefully, Jake began. However, we need to inform you that we cannot accept your terms. Thalarin felt a moment of confusion. No species had ever rejected surrender when faced with impossible odds. Human Morrison, perhaps you do not understand your situation. We have overwhelming technological and numerical superiority. Resistance is not logical. You are probably right, Jake agreed. But humans do not always do what is logical. We do what we think is right, even when the odds are against us. Very well, Thalarin replied with what sounded like disappointment. We had hoped to avoid unnecessary destruction, but you have made your choice. Prepare your vessel for boarding. We will take your crew alive so they can witness the conquest of your worlds. The communication ended and Thalarin turned to his weapons officer. Disable their engines and weapons. Use minimum force. I want them alive to serve as examples to other human populations. What happened next would be studied by military historians across the galaxy for centuries. The USS Meridian, facing 5 massively superior alien vessels, did something that broke every rule of space warfare. Instead of trying to fight or flee, it simply vanished. Where did they go? Thalarin demanded from his sensor officer. The alien was working frantically at his station, running every scan available. Unknown, Commander. They were there and then they were not. Our sensors show no jump signature, no energy trail, no indication of how they disappeared. What the Zelkans did not know was that Chief Engineer Tony Rodriguez had modified their gravity manipulation system in a way that created a temporary stealth effect. The ship had not actually disappeared. It had simply become invisible to the specific scanning frequencies the aliens were using. Lieutenant Danny Kim had figured out the alien scanning patterns during the 24-hour observation period. By studying their sensor sweeps, he had identified a blind spot in their detection grid that lasted exactly 3 seconds every 47 seconds. It was not much, but it was enough. The USS Meridian materialized behind one of the smaller Zelkan vessels and immediately opened fire with weapons the aliens did not recognize. Sergeant Pete Collins had armed their mining charges with proximity sensors and launched them using the ship's cargo handling systems. To Zelkin sensors, they looked like debris or waste materials, not weapons. The first charge detonated against the alien ship's hull with devastating effect. The Zelkin shields were calibrated to stop coherent energy weapons and kinetic projectiles fired from obvious weapon systems. They were not designed to stop mining explosives that approached like garbage and detonated at close range. Impossible, Thalarin stated as alarms began sounding throughout his fleet. Their weapons should not be able to penetrate our shields. The USS Meridian vanished again, using the same gravity stealth system that had allowed their first attack. This time they appeared above another Zelkan vessel and launched a different surprise. Dr. Lisa Park had loaded their scientific probes with every piece of malicious software that Lieutenant Danny Kim could create. The probes looked like sensor packages to the alien computers and were allowed through their defensive screens without challenge. Once inside the enemy ship's information systems, they began disrupting everything from life support to weapons targeting. The Zelkan computers tried to counter the attack but were programmed to expect logical, efficient hacking attempts. Danny's chaotic, emotionally driven virus code was unlike anything they had ever encountered. "Commander, we are receiving reports of system failures throughout the fleet," the communications officer announced. "The human attacks are causing cascading malfunctions in our computer networks." Meanwhile, Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster was coordinating with human forces throughout the sector. The quantum communicators that the aliens had dismissed as primitive were allowing real-time tactical coordination across multiple star systems. Every human ship, station, and colony was being warned of the alien threat and given detailed intelligence about their capabilities and weaknesses. "Sir, I have established contact with the mining platform at Asteroid Station 7, Amy reported to Captain Morrison. "They are launching converted cargo haulers armed with industrial mining lasers. ETA 47 minutes. The colony ships at New Dakota are also responding," she continued. "They have no weapons, but they are loading their ships with colonists volunteering for boarding actions. They will arrive in approximately 2 hours. Commander Thalarin was beginning to understand that he was facing something unprecedented in Zelkan military history. These humans were not fighting according to any tactical doctrine he recognized. Their attacks came from impossible directions, used weapons that should not exist, and followed no logical pattern. "Analysis of human tactics," he demanded from his tactical officer. "Commander, their actions defy analysis. They use inefficient weapon systems, waste energy on deception, and coordinate through methods our computers cannot track. Every action they take violates optimal combat efficiency." "Then counter their inefficiency with our superior logic," Thalarin ordered. "Sir, that is the problem. Our systems are designed to counter logical opponents. The humans appear to be making decisions based on emotion, intuition, and random chance. Our computers cannot predict their next actions because their actions do not follow predictable patterns." The USS Meridian appeared again, this time alongside the Zelkan flagship. Captain Morrison had ordered a maneuver that should have been suicidal. They were flying directly at the most heavily armed ship in the enemy fleet, with no apparent plan except to ram it. At the last second, Chief Engineer Tony Rodriguez activated an experimental system he had been developing during the observation period. The ship's fusion reactor was overloaded in a controlled manner that created a massive electromagnetic pulse. The energy wave disrupted every system on the Zelkan flagship for exactly 12 seconds. During those 12 seconds, Sergeant Pete Collins and his security team used emergency airlocks to launch themselves directly at the alien ship. They were wearing modified mining suits that looked like debris to enemy sensors. Each suit was equipped with cutting tools designed for asteroid mining, but perfectly capable of cutting through alien hull materials. "Sir, we have hull breaches on 17 decks," the damage control officer reported to Commander Thalarin. "The humans are inside our ship." "How is that possible?" Thalarin demanded. "Our shield should prevent any boarding attempt." "The shields are designed to stop ships and large projectiles, Commander. The humans launched themselves individually in equipment our sensors classified as space debris. By the time we identified them as threats, they were already through our defensive perimeter." Inside the Zelkan flagship, Pete Collins and his team were conducting a boarding action unlike anything the aliens had prepared for. Zelkan security. Forces were trained to fight other Zelkans using Zelkan weapons and tactics. They had no idea how to handle humans who used mining tools as weapons, moved through the ship using ventilation systems designed for automated maintenance, and seemed to ignore personal safety in favor of mission objectives. Collins to Morrison. Pete reported through his communication system. We are inside their computer core. Danny's virus programs are working, but we need more time to completely disrupt their systems. How much time? Jake asked. Give me 10 minutes and I can shut down their entire fleet. Dr. Lisa Park had been monitoring alien communications and made a discovery that changed everything. Captain, the Zelkan fleet is not independent. All 5 ships are controlled by a central computer system on the flagship. If we can disrupt that system, we can disable their entire force. Lieutenant Danny Kim was already working on the problem. Sir, if Pete can get me access to their main computer core, I can upload a modified version of the virus that will spread throughout their entire fleet. But it has to be done from inside their most secure systems. Captain Morrison looked at the tactical display showing 5 alien ships, each one still far more powerful than his single vessel. But the humans had proven something that the Zelkan Empire had never encountered. Sometimes the weakest opponent could become the most dangerous, especially when they refused to follow the rules of engagement that stronger enemies expected. Pete, you have your 10 minutes, Jake announced. Amy, coordinate with all incoming human forces. When that virus hits their systems, I want every human ship in the sector to hit them simultaneously. Tony, prepare for full power to weapons and engines. When their defenses go down, we are going to show them what humans can do when we stop holding back. Commander Thalarin was beginning to realize that the Zelkan Empire had made a critical error in judgment. These humans were not weak because they lacked advanced technology. They were strong because they could use simple technology in ways that advanced computers could never predict or counter. Sergeant Pete Collins moved through the alien ship with his team, cutting through bulkheads and disabling security systems with tools designed for peaceful mining operations. The Zelkan defenders could not understand how these primitive humans were outfighting their superior forces using equipment that looked like construction gear. Collins to Morrison, we have reached their computer core, Pete reported through his communications device. Danny, I am plugging you in now. Lieutenant, Danny Kim's virus began spreading through the Zelkan fleet's central computer system like wildfire through dry grass. The alien computers tried to stop it using standard defensive protocols, but Danny had programmed his virus using musical mathematics and emotional logic that the rational Zelkan systems could not comprehend. Sir, all our computer systems are failing, the Zelkan tactical officer reported to Commander Thalarin. The human virus is spreading faster than our security programs can counter it. How is their primitive software defeating our advanced systems? Thalarin demanded. Commander, the virus does not follow logical programming patterns. It appears to be based on some form of artistic expression rather than efficient code structure. Our computers cannot predict its behavior because it has no rational basis. Aboard the USS Meridian, Captain Jake Morrison watched as human ships began arriving from across the sector. The mining platform from Asteroid Station 7 appeared first, its converted cargo haulers bristling with industrial cutting lasers. The ships looked nothing like military vessels, but their mining equipment was proving surprisingly effective against alien technology. Captain Morrison, this is Commander Frank Hayes from Station 7, came a voice over the communications system. We have 15 converted haulers ready for action. Our mining lasers cannot penetrate their main shields, but if you can bring those shields down, we can cut their ships apart like asteroids. Roger that, Frank. Stand by for shield collapse in approximately 3 minutes. The colony ships from New Dakota arrived next, filled with civilian volunteers who had never seen military action but were determined to defend their homes. Captain Betty Ross of the lead colony ship contacted Morrison with a plan that would have horrified any conventional military strategist. Captain, we cannot fight their warships directly, but we can ram them. Our colony ships are designed to survive deep space impacts. If we accelerate to maximum velocity and hit them during their system failures, we might be able to disable their weapons. Betty, that is a suicide mission, Jake protested. Maybe, but if we do nothing, they will conquer our worlds anyway. At least this way we go down fighting. Commander Thaloran was watching his fleet fall apart around him as more human ships continued to appear. These were not military vessels by any rational definition, but they were fighting with a coordination and determination that his advanced tactical computers could not counter. "Commander, long-range sensors detect additional human vessels approaching," his sensor officer announced. "Mining ships, cargo haulers, colony transports, and what appears to be converted civilian spacecraft. Total count is now over 40 vessels. 40. Ships," Thaloran repeated with disbelief. Where did they come from? What the alien commander did not understand was that humans had been spreading across space not through military conquest, but through civilian expansion. Every mining operation, every trading post, every colony had ships and people who could fight when threatened. The Zelkan Empire had prepared to face a military fleet, not an entire civilization mobilized for war. Dr. Lisa Park had been monitoring alien communications and discovered something crucial. "Captain, their reinforcements are coming. I am detecting jump signatures from a much larger Zelkan fleet, ETA approximately 6 hours. "How many ships?" Jake asked. "At least 50 vessels, including their heavy battlecruisers, sir. Even with all our human ships, we cannot fight a force that size." Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster had been coordinating the defense effort when she made a discovery that changed everything. "Captain, I have been analyzing the pattern of arriving human ships. We now have representation from every major human settlement within 8 light years. But more importantly, several of these ships carry quantum communicators linked to Earth Command." "What does that mean?" Jake asked. "Sir, Admiral Kate Sullivan has been monitoring this entire battle in real time. The Earth Defense Fleet is not 6 days away anymore. They have been using our quantum network to coordinate a massive jump directly into this system. ETA 27 minutes. The virus that Danny Kim had unleashed finally reached critical mass in the Zelkan computer systems. All 5 alien ships suddenly went dark as their main computers crashed simultaneously. Lights went out, shields failed, weapons powered down, and life support systems switched to emergency backup power. "Now," Captain Morrison announced to all human forces, "hit them with everything we have." The converted mining ships opened fire, with industrial lasers that had been designed to cut through solid rock. Against unshielded alien hulls, they were devastatingly effective. The colony ships accelerated to ramming speed while their civilian crews prepared for boarding actions using farming tools, construction equipment, and anything else they could find. "This is impossible," Commander Thaloran stated as he watched, his technologically superior fleet being torn apart by mining equipment and civilian spacecraft. "These humans should not be able to defeat us." His science officer provided an analysis that would reshape Zelkan understanding of warfare. "Commander, we have been defeated by our own assumptions. We expected these humans to fight like every other species we have conquered. We prepared for logical tactics, efficient strategies, and predictable responses. Instead, they fight with chaos, emotion, and creativity. They use mining tools as weapons, civilian ships as warships, and computer viruses based on artistic principles rather than logical programming. Our advanced technology is designed to counter advanced opponents, but it cannot adapt to primitive tactics used in unpredictable ways." Sergeant Pete Collins and his team had taken control of the Zelkan flagship's computer core when they made a discovery that would prove crucial for humanity's future. "Captain, you need to see this. The aliens have detailed information about their entire empire, ship locations, planet defenses, political structures, everything." Dr. Park was already analyzing the captured data. "Jake, this is incredible. The Zelkan Empire controls hundreds of worlds, but their entire military is based on the same centralized computer systems we just defeated. If we can modify Danny's virus and spread it throughout their empire, we could disrupt their entire fleet." "How long would that take?" Morrison asked. "With their own communication networks, maybe hours." "But Captain, there is something else. This empire has conquered 17 different species over the past 2 centuries. All of those conquered peoples are still alive, working as forced laborers on Zelkan worlds. If we could free them..." Lieutenant Danny Kim was already working on the problem. Sir, I can modify the virus to spread through their entire communication network. But once I release it, there will be no stopping it. It will crash computer systems throughout the Zelkan Empire. Do it, Jake ordered without hesitation. As Danny uploaded his virus into the alien communication network, Admiral Kate Sullivan's Earth Defense Fleet emerged from hyperspace. 50 human warships appeared around, the disabled Zelkan vessels like wolves surrounding wounded prey. Captain Morrison, this is Admiral Sullivan. Outstanding work. We monitored your entire engagement and have prepared similar tactics for the approaching Zelkan reinforcements. Admiral, we have something better than tactics. We have a virus that can disable their entire fleet. Commander Thaloran watched, in stunned silence, as his empire's most advanced fleet was surrounded by human ships that should have been no match for Zelkan technology. His own vessel was controlled by human boarders using mining equipment. His computers were infected with artistic virus code, and his reinforcements were about to face an enemy that had proven immune to conventional military thinking. Open a communication channel to the human commander, Thaloran ordered. Captain Morrison appeared on the screen, no longer the seemingly helpless exploration captain from 24 hours earlier. Now he looked like what he truly was, a representative of a species that refused to surrender even when facing impossible odds. Commander Thaloran, I believe you wanted to discuss surrender terms. The Zelkan reinforcement fleet arrived expecting to find human debris and Commander Thaloran preparing for the next phase of conquest. Instead, they found their advance force disabled and surrounded by an impossible collection of human vessels that ranged from military warships to converted garbage haulers. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching as 50 additional alien ships tried to understand what had happened to their seemingly invincible comrades. She opened a communication channel to the newly arrived Zelkan commander. I am Admiral Kate Sullivan of the Earth Defense Fleet. Your advance force has surrendered after suffering complete defeat. I suggest you consider doing the same. The Zelkan reinforcement commander, Fleet Admiral Zex Morvain, responded with the arrogance that had served his empire well for centuries. Impossible. Human technology is primitive. Your forces are inferior. We demand the immediate release of our vessels and the surrender of all human forces. Admiral Morvain, let me show you something interesting, Kate replied. She nodded to her communications officer, who activated Lieutenant Danny Kim's virus through the captured Zelkan communication systems. The virus spread through the reinforcement fleet's computer networks like lightning. Within minutes, every alien ship was experiencing the same cascading system failures that had disabled the original force. Lights flickered, shields wavered, and weapons powered down as the artistic chaos of human programming overwhelmed logical Zelkan computers. What have you done to our systems? Admiral Morvain demanded. We gave your computers something they were never designed to handle, Admiral Sullivan explained. Creativity, emotion, and the kind of chaotic thinking that makes humans dangerous when you back us into corners. Captain Jake Morrison joined the communication from his position aboard the captured Zelkan flagship. Admiral Morvain, your empire made a critical error. You assumed that because we appeared weak, we actually were weak. You never considered that our apparent limitations might actually be hidden strengths. Dr. Lisa Park had been analyzing the complete Zelkan military database and made discoveries that would change the balance of power throughout the galaxy. Admiral Sullivan, I am sending you the complete intelligence package we captured. The Zelkan Empire has detailed records of every species they have conquered, including current locations and defensive capabilities. More importantly, they have lists of species that refused to surrender and were completely destroyed. 17 different civilizations that chose death over slavery. But Admiral, there is something else. The Zelkan Empire has enemies, other civilizations that have been fighting them for decades. If we could contact these resistance groups. Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster had been monitoring communications across multiple star systems and discovered something remarkable. Admiral, the virus is spreading beyond the ships in this system. It is traveling through the Zelkan communication network and disabling computer systems throughout their empire. How far has it spread? Admiral Sullivan asked. Based on communication intercepts, at least 40 star systems are reporting computer failures. Their entire military command structure is collapsing. Commander Vex Thaloran, now a prisoner aboard his own ship, requested a private communication with Captain Morrison. When they were alone, the alien leader asked a question that revealed how completely human actions had shattered Zelkan understanding of warfare. "How did you know our computers could not handle chaotic programming?" Thaloran asked. "We did not know," Jake replied honestly. "We were desperate and trying anything that might work. Your mistake was assuming that desperation makes humans weak. Actually, desperation makes us creative. But your tactics violated every principle of efficient warfare." Thaloran protested. "Exactly. We do not fight to be efficient. We fight to win. Sometimes the most inefficient approach is the most effective approach, especially against enemies who expect efficiency." Admiral Sullivan was coordinating with human forces throughout known space when she received a message that would reshape galactic politics. "Admiral, this is Captain Nancy Price of the exploration vessel Frontier. We have made contact with representatives of the Keth Republic, the Vandar Alliance, and the Free Worlds Coalition. All three civilizations have been fighting the Zelkan Empire for over 50 years. "What do they want?" Kate asked. "They want to know how we defeated a Zelkan fleet using primitive technology. They also want to know if we would be willing to share our computer virus with their resistance movements." Dr. Park realized the implications immediately. "Admiral, we could free every conquered species in Zelkan space. The Empire depends entirely on centralized computer control. Without their computer networks, they cannot coordinate military operations across hundreds of star systems." Lieutenant Danny Kim was already working on modifications to his virus. "Admiral, I can customize the programming to target specific ship types and leave civilian systems mostly intact. We could disable their military without causing massive civilian casualties." Admiral Sullivan made a decision that would be remembered as one of the most important moments in human history. "Do it. Contact all resistance groups and conquered species. Provide them with everything they need to free themselves." The next several hours saw the collapse of the largest empire in known galactic history. The virus spread through Zelkan communication networks to every corner of their territory. Military fleets found themselves helpless as their computer systems crashed. Garrison forces on conquered worlds were cut off from central command and faced uprisings from populations they had oppressed for centuries. Fleet Admiral Morvain, his entire force now disabled and surrounded, made one final attempt to understand what had happened to his seemingly invincible empire. "You have destroyed everything we built over 400 years. How did such a weak species accomplish this?" Captain Morrison answered for all of humanity. "We are not weak because we lack your technology. We are strong because we can adapt, create, and fight in ways your computers cannot predict. You conquered 17 species by overwhelming them with superior force. But you never learned to fight opponents who refused to be intimidated by superior force. Every species you defeated was logical, hierarchical, and predictable. We are chaotic, creative, and stubborn. When you threatened our families and our freedom, you did not face our military. You faced our entire civilization." Dr. Park added her own analysis. "Your empire succeeded because you fought opponents who were similar to you, advanced, logical, efficient. But efficiency can become a weakness when facing opponents who specialize in being unpredictable." The aftermath of the battle saw the rapid liberation of hundreds of worlds as conquered species used the human virus to disable their Zelkan oppressors. The empire that had seemed unstoppable for centuries crumbled in a matter of days, brought down not by superior technology, but by creativity and determination. Admiral Sullivan established the first Galactic Liberation Council on the former Zelkan capital world, with representatives from every freed species. Humanity did not seek to replace the Zelkan Empire with a human empire. Instead, they helped establish a confederation of free worlds based on cooperation rather than conquest. Commander Thaloran, now serving as a cultural liaison between humans and Zelkans, spent his remaining years trying to understand the species that had defeated his people. In his final report, he wrote words that became famous throughout the galaxy. "We thought humans were weak because they appeared vulnerable. We were wrong. Humans are strong because they can turn vulnerability into opportunity, weakness into strength, and desperation into victory. Captain Jake Morrison returned to Earth as a hero, but he always insisted that the real heroes were the civilian volunteers who had converted mining ships into warships and sacrificed their lives to defend their families. The USS Meridian was retired to a place of honor, its mission having accomplished far more than anyone could have imagined. The galaxy learned an important lesson from humanity's victory over the Zelkan Empire. Sometimes the most dangerous opponent is not the one with the biggest weapons or the most advanced technology. Sometimes the most dangerous opponent is the one who refuses to give up, even when facing impossible odds. Years later, when other aggressive civilizations threatened the peace, they found themselves facing not just human military forces but entire human populations willing to turn farming tools into weapons, mining equipment into starships, and computer viruses based on music into instruments of liberation. The galaxy had learned that humans were not weak. They were just getting started.